Ilongo. It's a pretty weird language. I think the biggest thing with learning the language, learning Ilongo, is because there's not like there's any like books written in Ilongo, or it's not like like reading signs and stuff. But like Ilongo, you just have to talk. Like you just have to be super talkative. It's the only way to learn it is to carry around a little notebook. I just carry around my little pocket, and everyone would make fun of me for it, but I didn't even care. And I would just write down words. Like it was really hard in the beginning because like I'm trying to like pick out words that like I learned at the MTC, but like I just thought natives spoke so fast that like it was all just like one long continuous word. But like just slowly like, studying words and just like have your trainer just like teach you some words and like grammar stuff and just keep writing it down, keep on studying it, and then eventually you start being able to pick out some words that natives are saying. But it's not only like just to study those words; is you have to use them as well. Like if you just like study it, if you don't speak to anybody, like you're gonna forget those words easy. So it's more of just like studying, using, listening, just like keep repeating. It's the only way to learn a language, especially a language like Ilongo. Like I remember it was like I think like my first or second day of the mission field, where my trainer and I are contacting the street, and he just goes and like talks to this lady, and he's like talking to her for like I don't know a couple minutes. And I'm just dead silent. I have zero idea what has been said. Like keep in mind, this is like my second day like in the Philippines, and so like I'm just like I don't know anything. Like I don't know how to say anything. I swear. Like everything I learned in the MTC just like left me at this moment. And then like my trainer, he's Filipino. He just looks over. He's just like talk to her. Like they've already been talking for like 5 minutes, and I'm just like, oh, kamusta, which is like how are you? Like just like a greeting. And like I look so stupid, but like it's okay. Like it's just stuff like that. Like you're just gonna look stupid. Like learning a language, but it's okay. You just that's a part of it though. It's just like Filipinos, like I said, like, they love to like joke, make fun of you. So they'll make fun of you for the language, but like you just have to be a good sport about it. It takes months and months to learn a language. So like as long as you try, they'll make fun of you for not knowing it, but then like they'll really appreciate like how much you tried to learn it. They'll notice improvements and they'll tell you like, oh, like, you're really improving. You're doing good. It's kind of like makes you feel warm inside. Like it's like, weren't you just making fun of me last week for how much I couldn't speak this language? But it was it's a fun language to learn. It's a super fun language to speak though. Like it's like a roller coaster. Like the accent just goes up and down, and it's just fun. You just I loved it so much as it was a blast. Like I've been home for over a year and I still like think to myself like, wow, I learned another language. Like that was really cool. Um, but the biggest thing though with Iloilo mission is that each province is a different language. So it'll say like your mission language is Ilonggo, right? In my first area was Ilonggo. Um, but like you have like 3 zones in Iloilo, like and that's all straight Ilonggo. But when you go out to like another province called Antique, it's called Kinaraya. That's the language, and they're like kind of similar, but like kind of not. Like so, my second area was Antique, where I spoke Kinaraya, and so like I had 6 months of speaking it long now. I was like kind of confident in myself, and then like I go to this other place, it's like hey, it's second area, second language, and like I was listening to people talk, and like I felt like I should be able to understand them, but like I couldn't. So that was like kind of frustrating, kind of stressful. But like once you've like got one kind of down, like your ability to pick up a second was like so much faster. Like after 3 months of being in that area, I was like just as good at Korea as I was like at Ilonggo. So that was pretty cool. And I stayed there for about 6 months, so I got pretty good at that language. And then I got moved to another province. It's called Aklan. It's kind of like a mix between two languages. You have like Tagalog and you have Aklan. And that's probably like the most stressful time of my mission. Probably is when I first got transferred there. It was like my first 3 areas were 4 different languages. And so I remember just being like unbelievably stressed. Like I was just like mixing all these languages that I knew, and I wasn't making any sense. Like I was trying to study Aklana, and I was trying to study Tagalog, but then like I knew Ilonggo, I knew Kalayan, like it was like all these languages were just like mixed into one, and so like I would say like be like speaking a sentence and like speak like 4 different languages in one sentence. It was just like it was a mess. And so you just kind of like gotta learn how to like divide them out in your brain, you know, to see like what language is what. It's really difficult, I promise, but it's really cool though. The Lord helps you a lot when it comes to learning a language. Um, like the gift of tongues is super real, and members will love you for it. I promise you. Like you just embrace their language, dude, and members are like, "You're a cool dude," and then they'll want to hang out with you and give you referrals. So that's always nice too.
So it's a lot like Tagalog. Like there's a lot of the same words. There's a lot of Spanish words too, which was helpful. But yeah, it's completely different from English. Like the way that they make sounds and the way that you position your mouth is just really, really different. And I guess it's really hard for people to like Filipinos when they learn English. If they're Cebuano speaking, they have a really hard time learning English just because like the sounds are really different. But yeah, it's just like any other foreign language. The hard part was it wasn't written, and so there wasn't like a book in the MTC that was officially created. It was like the MTC teachers wrote the books, and so I really didn't like it was hard because it was only spoken, and you didn't really know. There wasn't set rules about what to say or how to say it. I mean, there's grammar rules, obviously, but it was just different from what I was expecting. I was expecting like a written language and more knowledge about it, I guess. I don't know.
So when it came to language for me, it was just like, I don't know, because like memorizing phrases and stuff didn't really help for me, like me at all. I kind of want to learn like the basics. So like the basic grammar structure and how to use it, but literally the key, because so many people are like, how do I learn the language? And I had people ask me when I was fairly new or like older in the mission, how'd you learn the language quickly and things like this? And I was just like, well, it's simple. If you want to learn the language, you speak the language, right? That's pretty much the best advice you can get. Like, you just have to go out and speak the language. If you don't speak the language, you won't learn it. And speaking it doesn't just mean like only saying things you know, it's trying to like hear what they say and try to repeat it back, if that makes sense. So you hear the way somebody says something and you try to understand why they said it like that, and then go home, study it if you don't get it, and then you go back and you try to use that phrase, you try to use the way that they said it the next day. Because in the Philippines, even, so in my very last area, I had had a month and a half left on my mission when I went to Mindoro, my very last area. And every time I went to a different area, they had a different tone they'd use because it's crazy. It's like in the Philippines, there's like 100 different dialects. So all these people come from different areas. So almost every single different area you'll go to, they'll be using different words, or they'll like say the word in a different way. So you have to go and you have to find out what it means. And don't be afraid to ask people what it means, because in the Philippines, they love, like, if you're trying to understand their language, they'll do their best to explain it to you. And a lot of them are pretty good at English, so they can tell you in English as well. So ask them what it means, really try to understand why they're saying it the way they're saying it, and then, like, what it actually means and what they're intending to say, what they want you to understand. And then you have to talk to a lot of people. You can't, like, street contacting is the way I learned to speak Tagalog, to be honest. Because the teaching and stuff you learn in the MTC, like the basic words for teaching, and you'll refine that when you teach people. But if you want to learn how to converse with people, things like that, you should have to talk to everybody. If you're quiet, you'll never learn it. So those are probably the best things I did. And then other than that, just really take language study seriously. My trainer was just a language study fanatic. He would not let me like get off it, and it kind of ticked me off because like this is what we did. So at first we started off with like lesson 1. And he's like, "Okay, teach the first principle of lesson 1 in 1 minute and 30 seconds to me in Tagalog." This is like day 1 of me being in the field, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. So I tried, and then by like the next day, he was like, "Okay, now you have 1 minute to do it." And I was like, "What?" Then it was like 30 seconds, and he's like, "Okay, tell it to me in 10 seconds. Like, how would you basically describe it?" And so, also, it's simplifying your teaching and simplifying the way you should be saying stuff, because the way they teach it to you in the MTC is really formal. It's really, and it's also like indirect, if that makes sense. It's not as direct as it could be. So you just have to learn the way that they talk and kind of adjust to that. And then really take language studies seriously, things like that. Then just like basic words. Ask your trainer to like make a list of basic words for you. Basic conversational words, like the word makano. Like, that's how much. So I've been in I was like in the Philippines, and I had no idea how to ask how much something was. So I mean, I'd basically starved to death. So it took me like a week to figure out how much that, like, how to say how much. So I mean, it's like makano, then like paano, and then like basic like sentences. Because I was like contacting a guy one time on the back of a tricycle. So it's like a motorcycle that they hook up like a cab to, and then like a little side thing. That's how you get around. Super cool. But no, I was just like, and he just asked me, "Saan ka galing?" or like, "Where are you coming from?" Like, what was I doing before that? And I had no idea what he's saying. It's like the most basic thing, right? So like, "Saan ka galing?" "Saan ka pupunta?" Like, where are you going? Where are you coming from? How old are you? Ilang taon ka na? Stuff like that. Just like really basic things. And if you know all of like the basic stuff, like the basic questions, you can carry on a conversation even if you have no idea what they're saying. They're just like, "Oh, cool, like sige," like, "All right." And then you can ask them another question, right? Until you finally get to teaching about the gospel a little bit and asking if you come over. But yeah.
The way I like to think about it is you have like Tagalog on one end and then Cebuano on the other, and then like Hiligaynon's in the middle between those two. It's not completely accurate, but that's how I like to view it, because it has a good mix of both, like Tagalog words, it has Cebuano words, but it's its own language, definitely. They speak it in Iloilo and Negros. They speak it in a few other places like Guimaras, just a few other places, but it's mostly in that central region around Iloilo, around Negros. And the accent is different from the other accents in the Philippines. Tagalog accent is more flat. It's more just straight. They just talk longer words. Cebuano is also pretty flat. It's pretty direct. Tagalog is like direct, stop, and then like Hiligaynon is more fluid. Like, it has an interesting tone. Like, it's just like almost like they're singing. It's like always up and down. Ano gusto mo ngay hambal ko? Like, it's kind of like it's got a rhythm to it. Hindi ko kabalo kung anong gusto mo ngay hambal ko sa imo. And then they do have accents too, depending on where you're at. The accents are different. Bacolod probably has the most distinguishable accent, just because they're very famous for that tone. It's really emphasized. Just like even if they're mad, like it sounds not like, it doesn't sound like they're angry, just because they emphasize that tone a lot in Bacolod. Like sige na bala, like it's just like it's really emphasized. And then like maybe if you go up more north, like Sagay, there's some Cebuano influence, and so it's flatter. There's still some of that rhythm, some of that fluctuation in your tone, but it's a little bit flatter, more like hard, I guess. They use different words too, depending on where you're at. Like, they'll change up the words slightly. I found tapi. That's probably where they use like the deepest language, like not the most common words. Bacolod, I heard more like English words that they'd throw in. They use a lot of English words that they just throw in and conjugate in Filipino. So that's pretty common. Learning the language, you just got to start out saying what you know. Like, I remember my first transfer. My first transfer, I was with an American companion, which probably didn't help me learn the language because we talked in English a lot, like, which obviously is not how you learn a language, by talking in your own language. So that was a problem, my first transfer, but it was just me repeating a lot of the same things I knew over and over again, and always trying to figure out new words, just asking people. Like, you just walk down the street and say hi. Just like, if it's morning, say good morning. Like, mayong aga. If it's afternoon, mayong hapon. If it's nighttime, mayong gabi. And you just always got to be talking. After my first companion, which was one transfer, all of my companions are Filipino. I didn't have another American companion. And so that helped me a lot with the language. I never spoke English after my first transfer. Grammar, you can't think in direct translations. That's probably the best advice. Because it just won't work. You have to think like a Filipino thinks, and you have to think how they talk. Like, it won't work translating it directly across. The common format for Hiligaynon is called VAOL, verb, actor, object, location. So you'll usually start with a verb, like, let's say running. Magdalagan is the verb, conjugate it however you want, and then the actor. So, like, if it's me, magdalagan ako. Ako is me. And then an object, well, there's not really an object in that sentence, but then, like, follow up with location, sa market or wherever. Those are the three things that you have to learn as far as grammar, is ang, sang, and sa. Because it's not the same in English where you have like articles and things like that. Ang, sang, and sa. So, like, the ang just marks like the emphasis, where the emphasis is at in the sentence. Sang is like the object or the non-emphasis, and then sa is location focus, just like it just shows where location is. It's very straightforward language. They have a word called bala, which is like a verbal question mark. So, you know, when you're asking a question, you can ask questions with the tone, but it's not the same as English. They actually have a word that says they're saying a question, to distinguish between a question and like an actual like statement. One thing that helped me a lot partway through my mission, the biggest change I saw was when I recorded myself. Like, I was having issues with my accent, some things like that. Recording myself and then listening to it over again was really big, because it sounds different. You can hear what you actually sound like when you speak that language. So I do recommend recording yourself, listening to it over again, and trying to make it sound as close to the way that people talk as you can. Language study. I didn't do a lot of memorization. Just talk to your companion in the language, reading scriptures in the language out loud. Always talk out loud.